we'll start with this. Well, Tyson Fury had this to say. He says, Wilder will be more dangerous than the last fight. He was quoted as saying, heavyweight boxing takes one punch. Dismantle Deontay Wilder? It only takes one punch off Deontay Wilder. Still a very dangerous opponent. Still a very hungry man who is coming in there to prove his worth. To prove he can come back and become a two-time heavyweight champion. More dangerous than the last fight, for sure. Do you know what? It's just a boxing match. It's just a boxing match. I don't look at it like anything else. You win some, you lose some. You never can tell. I'm looking forward to the challenge, whenever that may be. I'll get over there, nice and early, 8 to 10 weeks beforehand. Put in a good, grueling training camp. Hopefully, I'll be injury-free and we'll go out there and dance beneath the stars, in front of the world after the coronavirus. God willing, everything goes to plan, and we both get out the ring safely and go back to our families in one piece, and the show continues to the next one, whatever that may be. I'd love to get out there and do what I do best, boxing, but it's out of my hands. It's out of everybody's hands, apart from the people who are running the world, and unfortunately, I'm not one of those. And I'm glad I'm not, because that job is difficult. More difficult than taking punches in the face for money. The proposition that Deontay Wilder might be a more dangerous opponent for Tyson Fury in the third fight than he was in either the second or first fight is an intriguing proposition. I mean, there's certainly more at stake for Deontay Wilder here in this third fight than there was in the previous two matches.
There is.
Deontay Wilder's career, what's left of it, hinges on whether or not
He can get his belt back.
because if he can't get that belt back, he will effectively have been ejected from the big heavyweight scene, the big heavyweight picture. Who will be the next undisputed champion once the smoke settles? Who was the last man standing? If Wilder can't win this rubber match, certainly won't be him.
So there's a lot at stake here for him.
In truth, it's not the most far-fetched proposition that I've ever heard, that Deontay Wilder might actually approach the third fight being more dangerous than he was in the second or the first, because in the third fight, his career hangs in the balance in all the ways that it did not in the first two fights. There is an added incentive for Deontay Wilder to do better.
Try to.
He has to.
Try to do better.
The question is, can he? You know that not all losses are created equal. There are close competitive losses to where both fighters, both combatants, showed their worth. And if a guy lost, it was only by a hair, by a nominal margin. That one guy shaded it in a fight that could have went either way. Thus, there's no shame in that. There's no shame in losing in that kind of a fight.
Close fight.
Whereas the loss that Deontay Wilder suffered was a demoralizing loss.
It was.
It was one-sided. It was a one-sided beating. The kind of beating that not only requires physical recuperation, but psychological recuperation as well. A beating can change you. It certainly did change Meldrick Taylor when he fought Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. It's never the same since.
That's the kind of beating Wilder took.
So while I don't dismiss the possibility that with this added incentive, perhaps Deontay Wilder could be a more dangerous guy in the third fight than he was in either the second or first fight, while I don't dismiss this possibility, I do have to take stock of the probability that this would happen. Because as it stands, Deontay Wilder is coming off a one-sided beating and bicep surgery.
What's this, the 8th one?
This is approximately the 8th surgery Wilder has had in his professional career. Here today, he's in his mid-30s.
He's getting older.
He's always a fighter of limited ability, with a very limited skill set.
That's always been the case.
So with those things in mind, I don't dismiss the possibility that perhaps, since there's more at stake for Wilder in the third fight than either the second or the first fight, that perhaps it's possible that he might return as a more dangerous guy. I don't dismiss that possibility, I just question its probability.
What are the odds?
What are the odds that Deontay Wilder could come back and do better in a third fight than he did in either the second or the first fight? What are the odds? Based on what we know, based on what the facts are, that Deontay Wilder was very much demoralized in that second fight, that since that fight he's had surgery to his arm, yet again. He's a fighter in his mid-30s, and for those out there
in that age group
who are of age, you'll know that you don't quite heal up as fast in your mid-30s as you did in your mid-20s.
You just don't.
These aforementioned factors are not at all encouraging.
It doesn't look good.
We can take stock of the intangibles and tell ourselves that perhaps Deontay Wilder is going to come out guns blazing because in this fight, unlike the aforementioned two, there's more on the line for him. His career hangs in the balance, and that might be true. That's all well and good. But there are another set of factors that we have to account for as well, and those factors are not intangible. It's not my opinion that Tyson Fury won the second fight in one-sided fashion. That is a fact. It's not my opinion that Deontay Wilder was stopped for the very first time in his career. That is a fact. It's not my opinion that he was dropped in front of one of the largest audiences he's ever fought in front of, and that's
a simple matter of fact.
It's not my opinion that Deontay Wilder is coming off of bicep surgery yet again, and that this is one of several surgeries he's had to undergo over the years. That is just a fact. We must also address what intangibles are in association with these facts. How oftentimes when a fighter suffers a beating, the likes of the beating that Wilder suffered, psychologically, sometimes they're never quite the same. I'll reiterate, but it's possible Wilder could be more dangerous in the third fight. It's possible, but how probable is that? How much do you guys out there believe that? Do you believe it enough to bet on it? Would you bet the farm on it?
Because that's what tells the story.
What are you gonna do? You gonna get mad at me for saying so? You gonna sit online all fucking day arguing about something you don't believe in enough to bet on? Is that what you're gonna do?
Go ahead.
Knock yourself out. The way that Wilder got knocked out in the second fight. Technically knocked out, I should say. For the hair splitters out there who want to focus on semantics.
Those guys.
As if that's any kind of a rebuttal. The bottom line is, it's possible. The way that anything's possible. Anything's possible, it's true. But not anything, not just anything, not everything is probable. And this falls under that category. In other news, promoter Frankie Sanchez wants to step up and fight champions. He wants big fights and he feels he's ready to fight big fights, said Margules, the president of Warriors Boxing, to Sky Sports. He's anxiously waiting the opportunity. He fought on the last show against Joey DeVaco, who has been a pretty tough stalking horse for a lot of people. He dominated him. Now he wants to step up, and he's calling out all champions. Margules believes that Sanchez's amateur pedigree, combined with his physical abilities, will present any of the top heavyweights with a lot of problems. Cuban amateur pedigree, very talented fighter, said Margules. I think he can go pretty far, because I don't know a lot of heavyweights that possess his speed and athleticism. He's not the most explosive puncher in the division, but he'll hurt you in a volume sense. Remember, he started as a cruiserweight, so he's not a huge heavyweight. He's tall, he's about 6'4", but he's more in the 220-pound range. You know what?
What?
Please don't tell me that your guy is ready for the champions when I have yet to see him in there with some of these solid challengers. It seems to me that what a lot of guys hope to do these days is skip ahead in the line. They don't want to pay their dues. They don't want to make their bones. If I suggest to you that your guy, your undefeated guy, Frankie Sanchez, should fight the likes of an F.A. Ajagba, I don't want to hear about risks versus rewards. I don't want to hear about how that fight needs to be marinated. Not when you're telling me that your guy is ready for the champions. If he's ready for the champions, certainly he must be ready for an undefeated contender like himself. And that's the kind of fight that I think is in order for Frankie Sanchez and for the likes of an F.A. Ajagba, who's on the same side of the street as Frankie.
Make the fight.
It's not a dissimilar situation to the situation happening over there in the United Kingdom between Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce. A sink or swim situation, the kind of sink or swim situation that both Anthony Joshua and Dillian White found themselves in all those years ago. It is a necessary component in developing a fighter. Unbeaten prospect versus unbeaten prospect. Situations like Clarissa Shields versus Frenton Cruz. Situations like Katie Taylor versus Nina Menke. Situations like Dubois versus Gorman. Dubois versus Joyce. Joshua versus White. Those kinds of situations. You want to convince me and the boxing community that your guy Frankie Sanchez is ready for the champions when we have yet to have seen him in there with the challengers.
We haven't.
So if he's ready for the champions, surely he's ready for an F.A. Ajagba. Don't tell me that he's ready for the champions based on Joey DeVaco.
You don't get to skip ahead in the line.
What, you beat Joey DeVaco, so now all of a sudden we gotta give you a title shot? Based on what? Based on that?
Give me a break.
Do you know how many guys are ahead of you in the line? If what you aspire to do is fight for a world title, world titles, against world titleists, you know what you've got to do. You've got to pay your dues.
Before that even comes into it.
You want to fight the champions? You want to become one yourself? You know what you've got to do. It's not sitting here telling me about how your guy beat Joey DeVaco. That ain't gonna do it. And finally, unified 140-pound champion Jose Ramirez says, I can see Josh Taylor fight happening at the O2 Arena in London. He was quoted as saying, you can see with all the great UK fighters, guys like Tyson Fury, the fans from the UK really come out and show a lot of support. I love the atmosphere and the energy. I can see the Taylor fight happening somewhere in London. You know, at the O2 Arena. That's a very popular arena over there. I would love to fight there against someone who's from there. Even though Taylor is from Scotland, I think the UK fans would definitely show up and support. Just boxing overall. I would expect a great atmosphere. Ramirez has shown that if the money is right, he'll head into enemy territory. He stopped Hooker in the 6th round of their July 27th fight at College Park Center in Arlington, Texas. I'm a very competitive guy, but I like friendly competition. I don't take anything to heart. When I was in Texas during fight week for Hooker, some of his family members and fans came to the media workout. They were making things more dramatic. But to me, it's like, hey, whatever, man. I like to see emotions. When I see emotions, I think they fear a little bit. And I'm not an emotional guy. I like to go in there and take care of my business. Doesn't matter where the fight takes place. I just want to make sure that the fight happens. I'm willing to go to the UK to fight him. I'm sure it would be a great opportunity for him to fight me in the States too. But I think it's a great fight. It's an undisputed fight. It's a fight where a lot of people will tune in to see what the super lightweights have to offer. Jose Ramirez, he's not wrong here. If, hypothetically speaking, you staged that fight in the United Kingdom, yeah, the UK fans would show up, but particular to the conversation, Josh Taylor's fans, they'd show up, cause it would be that much easier for them to travel to, say, London, as opposed to, Las Vegas, or New York City.
Place like that.
That it's a little easier for the people over there in Scotland, Josh Taylor supporters. It's easier for these guys and gals to get to the O2 Arena as opposed to getting to the MGM Grand or getting to Madison Square Garden, place like that. They won't have to travel across the Atlantic Ocean in order to support their guy. Not if the fight
is over there.
Is based in the UK. But will it be in the UK? Will it take place in the United Kingdom? It's too soon to tell. You could stage that fight in either the United Kingdom or the United States, and all things considered, I think it would get a warm reception, cause where it's easier for Josh's fans to get to the O2 Arena, it's easier for Jose Ramirez's fans to get to a venue somewhere in the Southwest or the West Coast. Here in America, ultimately, you could stage that fight in either the UK or the US, and I think the fans would show up and show out for it. This fight, however, is several fights from now, several fights down the line. Mandatories have to be satisfied.
They do.
Jose Ramirez's mandatory title defense against Victor Pastal has been postponed 2 times as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Wow.
He's got to get that out of the way, and in truth, now is the ideal time to stage such a match. Based on reports, that fight's supposed to be going down sometime this summer, and that is the appropriate time for just such a fight. It's not a big fight. It's not a fight where you're expecting to fill 20,000 seats. No, sir. But it is a necessary evil. And given how hungry boxing fans are right now for anything, now would be the appropriate time to get that obligation out of the way. There is also the matter of Jack Catterall to consider, the WBO's mandatory challenger. Yet another mandatory challenger that Jose Ramirez might have to satisfy. You know that Jack's saying he's not willing to step aside so that Jose can unify with Josh. He wants to be the very next guy that Jose fights after Victor Pastal. That situation will also require some reconciliation. Josh Taylor has his own mandatory challenger in Apinun Konsung that he must satisfy as well. What this effectively communicates is that provided Jose makes it through all of his mandatories and provided that Josh does the same, it's possible that the undisputed 140-pound title fight could be staged in front of a large audience, as that fight is several months from now, well into the following year. how long you think it's going to take for Jose Ramirez to take care of Victor Postol and then take care of Jack Catterall thereafter?
It's gonna take a few months.
That fucking fight ain't happening no time this year. No time this year. By the time this fight happens,
By then.
it'll be safe to stage big fights in front of big crowds.
Taylor versus Ramirez fight.
Which brings us back to Jose Ramirez's original contention, that he wouldn't mind having this fight in the United Kingdom at an arena like the O2 Arena.
It could happen.
It's entirely possible that the fight could land there. It all depends on where Top Rank feels the fight will make them the most money.
It's possible it's staged there.
But we've talked about how both Jose Ramirez and Josh Taylor, as unified champions, have several mandatories to satisfy between them. Thus, the fight between them is several months from now. And several months from now, the fight between them could be a bigger fight. Big enough that maybe the people over there at Top Rank decide they want to stage it in the United States. That's a possibility also. You stage that fight in the United Kingdom, and those really wouldn't be primetime hours for a boxing match in the United States. Primetime hours for an American audience that ESPN caters to. In truth, as a boxing fan, I don't really care where it happens, so long as it happens, so long as the fight comes off. Regardless of whether it's in the United Kingdom or the United States, you can bet your bottom dollar that I'm gonna fucking watch it. And all the ingredients are there to make the fight happen.